OSPF in single area network. Single area network, that means configuring OSPF in a single area. We can configure OSPF in multiple areas, and for that we should have to properly design the network. Remember, if you configure the multiple areas, then you have to do the route summarization, and if you don't do the route summarization, then no need to configure it in multiple areas. So if you want to configure it in multiple areas, then we need to configure it with the route summarization. Now, if you don't want to configure it in multiple areas, so by default we configure it with the single area. And when we configure it in single area, so we configure it is area 0. Area 0, like the backbone area, so that if you want to configure the other areas, then you can configure it easily. You can expand the areas, but remember, all those areas will still remain under the same routing domain, under the same autonomous system. Okay, so when a OSPF process is configured on the router, each router in an area goes through various processes to build up the routing table, and based on topology table, each router creates its own routing table for packet forwarding. So we can conclude that OSPF uses 3 types of table in the entire routing process. So when we configure the OSPF in a single area, so what it do here, it creates 3 tables. 3 tables. In first table it creates the routing table, neighbor table. So first they create the neighbor table, and in that it puts the information about the neighbors. So this table maintains what information about the neighboring routers. In this table is created with the help of Hello protocol, and this table is the building block of OSPF routing process. So first, when we configure the OSPF, it start running and it start creating the neighbor table. With the help of Hello protocols, Hello packets, it creates the neighbors, identify the neighbors and create the relationship between the neighbors, and put the information about the neighbors into the neighbor table. Then we have topology or link state table. This is also a table we have in OSPF, where the topology table or link state table is exchange of link states and networks, addresses, etc. So in this the OSPF stores what the information about the link state and network addresses, and to each other by neighboring routers, which helps every OSPF routers to create a network diagram called as link state table. So when they create the neighborship, then what the routing process do? It exchange the information about each other, and with the help of that information from the neighboring routers, it create the diagram of the network, and it is called the link state table. So it has an information about the networks and network addresses and link state of that neighboring routers. And then after that, it chooses the best path for reaching some destination or reaching the other networks, and create this routing table. So finally it creates the routing table. After creating the link state table, each OSPF router creates a routing table based on the SPF algorithm for path determination and packet forwarding. So first it creates the link state table, and in that it knows the diagram of the network, and from that it will calculate the best path to reach a destination network by using this SPF algorithm, by calculating the cost of the networks and total cost of reaching that destination network. And then it will create that network and put that network into routing table. And routing table is created, and then start doing the routing. When the routing table is created, then router is ready to do the forwarding, and it can forward the packets based on the routing table to the destination if they want, if some packet comes for that destinations. OSPF network topologies is what it has a network categories based on the architecture topology. So how the OSPF creates the topology? In each topology, OSPF has a different behavior, and OSPF works in different topology networks. And these are the different topologies we can say, like broadcast multi-access network. In this, all types of LAN based networks are converted covered under the broadcast multi-access network. So all type of the LAN network connected to this OSPF, it is covered under the broadcast multi-access network. And link Ethernet, fast Ethernet, token ring, FDDI, these are the uh, LAN networks, LAN based networks. So these types of network has a broadcast and multicast capabilities. So because it is a LAN network, so here we can do the broadcast and even a multicast also. It has a capability of doing broadcast and multicast, which is not available for the WAN side. Now all devices or physical media uses in this topology has broadcast and multicast features. So in the LAN technology, in the LAN based network, in the LAN side, local area network, we can have a broadcast and multicast, and all the devices and physical devices supports this topology, supports this broadcast and multicast features. So OSPF uses the multicast to send packets to these network types, and designated router that means the DR, and the backup designated router that is called BDR are elected in order to avoid the flooding of link state advertisements. The link state advertisements, like it is information about the link state. So the DR and BDR are elected based on the various criteria. I will tell you what criteria is to choose this DR and BDR. Actually what happens when we configure the OSPF, after creating the neighborship table, they start doing the election to choose the DR and BDR, DR and non-DR routers. DR and non-DR routers means one router becomes the DR and all the other routers become non-DR router. And the second best criteria will be a BDR, backup designated router. If in case the DR is not available, then backup designated router will take place. Now the other topology network is point to point. This topology is used where there are two devices connected to each other in point to point fashion, and there is only one sending and one receiving router. A typical example of this is a serial line, and PPP, that means point to point protocol, or SDLC is the most widely protocol used in such topology. So such point-to-point topology usually does not require layer 2 addressing, so this type of network also support broadcast and multicast traffic. OSPF does not require designated or backup designated routers in this scenario. So network traffic is sent using the multicast addresses for OSPF, that is 224.0.0.5. Remember, this is the multicast range, and from that range of multicast addresses, OSPF uses 224.0.0.5 in this point-to-point topology. Point-to-point topology, like for example, if you say this broadcast multi-access network, that means this is your router, and it is connected, one interface, it is connected to LAN network, and all the devices which is connected to LAN network. So this side of the network is for the OSPF topology, so we call it this broadcast multi-access network topology, which is on the LAN side. Then for the WAN side, or directly connected to the other router through the serial cable, or serial cable, is what? Point-to-point topology. So point-to-point topology, that means the router is directly connected to other router directly through a serial cable, that means point to point. In this topology, it is called point-to-point topology. So where the two devices connected each other in point-to-point fashion. And in these two protocols are widely used, point-to-point protocol or SDLC protocol. These protocols works on these topology or point-to-point topology to send the data, to encapsulate the data. And there is no MAC address here. It is not using any layer 2 addressing. That means there is no MAC address on this serial link. There is no MAC address. It uses the PPP or SDLC protocol to do the encapsulation. Then it uses this 224.0.0.5 to do send the information from this one router to other router, and it do what? Multicast. It does not do the broadcast, it do the multicast connection here. Now we have point to multi-point topology. Now this topology is used when a single device is connected to multiple devices or networks, and there is no requirement for DR and BDR election here. And this technology uses one IP subnet, and physically some point to multi-point networks cannot support multicast or broadcast traffic. In these cases, special configuration is required, and this type of network is called as a NBMA, that means non-broadcast multi-access network. In that case, your one router is connected to multiple points. For example, this is our LAN network, and for the WAN side, it do what? It connects to multiple points from a single point. Now what it do actually here, it has a single point here, but logically, physically it has a single point, but logically it has a multiple point connections. So physically it has a single point, but logically it is divided into multiple points to connect the multiple points. So in this case we have to do some special configurations, and also it does not support the broadcast because it is connected to a single port for the multiple connections. Like there is a single point, single port, and it is using virtually different ports. So it will not do a broadcast thing here. It will do only multicast thing. And here also DR BDR will not be required because it is connected to other routers, other networks from the multiple points. Now we have non-broadcast multi-access. That is what? This topology creates a multiple point-to-point line with many destination networks, and topologies like X.25, ATM, frame relay are examples of these technologies. These are the technologies which is used to configure this type of multi-point connections. We can configure the frame relay, we can configure X.25, ATM. Frame relay, X.25 is an old technology. Instead of this, now the people use this frame relay. But after the frame relay, now we have the ATM also. So now mostly they use the ATM, and all these are WAN technologies. They are all to do the WAN connections and to do this multi-access connection. So NBMA, that means non-broadcast multi-access, uses a fully matched or partially matched network. OSPF sees it fully matched or partially matched, and OSPF sees it as a broadcast network, and it will be represented by one IP subnet. And this technology requires manual configuration of the neighbors and the DR and BDR selection. DR and BDR routers are elected, and the DR and BDR must be directly connected to their neighbors, and all network traffic sent between neighbors will be replicated for each physical circuit using unicast addresses, because multicast and broadcast addresses are not supported by NBMA network. So in this configuration we need to do configuration for these X.25 ATM or frame relay. These requires the default manual configurations, and then this requires the manual configuration of neighbors also, and the DR and BDR selection also. Remember, the DR and BDR election or selection happens automatically. We don't do this, but in this case we have to do it manually. Like we have to select the DR BDR by ourselves. So how we can do that, and what is the DR and BDR? So the designated router means what? DR. DR is the router interface elected among all routers on a particular multi-access network segment, generally assumed to be a broadcast multi-access. And special techniques, often vendor dependent, may be needed to support the DR function on non-broadcast multi-access media. and it is usually wise to configure the individual virtual circuit of an NBA subnet as individual point-to-point lines. The techniques used are implementation dependent. So DR is what it is elected among all the routers on this particular multi-access network segment, on this multi-access non-broadcast multi-access segments also. So when we have multi-access segments which is connected, one router is connected to multiple segments of routers. So in this case, what we have DR and DDR selected, and in non-broadcast multi-access connections, we have to select manually. Now, how it selects the DR or BDR? So the DR is selected or elected based on the IP address, the router ID, based on the router ID of all the routers. And router ID means what? Router ID becomes the information, the IP address of the interface of the router. Like this router interface is serial and fast Ethernet, and it has these two IP address. So the maximum IP of the interface of this router will become the router ID. This router's ID will be 20.0.0.1, and this Thane router's IP, if you see this interface, this is the largest IP, 172. So it will become the router ID for Thane, and for Pune 192 is the largest IP, so it will become the router ID for the Pune. So when they exchange the neighbor information, they exchange the information about the router IDs also. So when they have the router ID of each other, so they decide based on the router ID that who will become the DR. And DR means among all these three routers, if you say, so the minimum router ID will become the DR. In case in these three routers, if suppose this one has a router ID as 20.0.0.1, this one is 172, this one is 192, so we can say the minimum is this Andheri. So this router will be what? The DR, and this interface of the router will be the DR. This Andheri router will be the DR. And the next best, that means after in this criteria, the next minimum router ID is this Thane. So this will be backup DR. Backup DR only comes when the DR is not available. Otherwise, this backup DR and the other routers will always be the non-DR routers. Now this is happening automatically. That means this router's interface IP is becoming the router ID automatically. We are not doing anything, and in the election we are not choosing that which router will be DR. It is happening automatically. Whatever the minimum IP they will get, minimum router ID they will get, that router will become the DR. We are not choosing any router to be a DR. But in that non-broadcast multi-access, we have to choose it manually. So if we want to choose it manually, if we want to choose the DR manually or BDR manually, then we can do that, and we can do that by using what? By using a different thing. A different thing is what? A virtual interface. We can create in all these routers, we can create what? A virtual interface. Virtual interface, that means these are the physical interface, but we can create a virtual interface also. And in that virtual interface, it is not a physical interface here, so it will not affect anything. Any communication, it will be the virtual interface, and on that virtual interface we will mention the IP address, and we will mention the IP address which will be the minimum of or maximum of the or minimum of the other router's ID. So we can change the router ID of these routers by creating the virtual interface. So criteria for choosing the router ID, remember the criteria for not choosing the DR, we will change the criteria to choose the router ID. So criteria for choosing the router ID is what? Is to choose the maximum IP of all the interface. But if you have any virtual interface, then that virtual interface will become the router ID automatically. Now what that means here, if suppose we have one router here, and it has a one interface, fast Ethernet, and it has one interface, serial, and we create a virtual interface here also. Virtual interface, that means it is not a physical interface, it is a virtual interface. So if it is a virtual interface, then it will not affect any networking, it will not affect anything, because this is not a real interface, so data will not go here or come here. It is just a virtual interface, so we can create virtual interface 1. Now when we give the IP addresses, for example, this fast Ethernet is having IP address of the network 10, this one is having serial interface is having the network of 20. Now when the election, when the router chooses the router ID, so it will choose what? The maximum interface ID, maximum interface ID. So if in this fast Ethernet serial, then this 10 and 20, this 20 is the maximum, so it will become the router ID by default. But I want to change the router ID of this router, so I will create this virtual interface. Now whatever IP I will give here on this virtual interface, even if I give the 100 here, 100 will always be the maximum, not 100. I will give here less than these two interfaces. Let's say I will give here 2. 2.0.0.1. So if you compare with all these interfaces, virtual interface and this physical interface, so still this IP is the maximum IP, and this IP should be the router ID. But when you have a virtual interface, so router will do what? It will not see for the physical interface, it will not look for the physical interface to configure, to choose the router ID. It will directly take the virtual interface and make the IP of that virtual interface as a router ID. No matter what IP you have in the physical interfaces, it will not become the router ID. The router ID will always become the virtual interface IP, no matter what IP you give. Whatever IP you give, minimum, maximum, whatever, it will become the router ID automatically. Now what we did here, we changed the router ID criteria and we selected the router ID manually here. So whatever the IP address we give in this virtual interface, that virtual interface IP will be the router ID for this router. Now when we have other routers also here, and they are having their own router IDs, like for example this one is having 172, that maximum router IP address, router ID, and that router is having router ID of 192 of the physical interfaces. So we can decide that who will become the DR. Who will become the DR by creating the virtual interface on all these routers and giving the IP address according to us. Like for example, I want this router to be a DR. So I will create a virtual interface on this router. I will create a virtual interface on this router, and what I will do, I will give the IP address on this interface, let's say example 1. Then I want this router to be a BDR, so I will give the virtual interface IP 2. Then this router I will create a virtual interface and I will give the router ID IP address of 3 dot. Now what? I have decided the router ID, so I know that who is going to be the router, the DR, because when you compare these IP addresses 1, 2 and 3, so this one will be the minimum router ID and this router will become the DR. So we can control the selection of DR or BDR also, that means the second best is 2, so this router will be BDR. So we can select, we can do the changes, we can do select, we can do the selection, we can change the selection of DR and BDR manually by using this virtual interfaces. Now how we can create the virtual interface, I will show you on this. Right now what I will do, this router's router ID is this because it is the maximum one. Now what I will do, I will go to this router and I will create a router ID, a virtual interface on it. and I will make the IP address which is less than the other interfaces. Let's say show IP interface brief. So we have these two interfaces, fast Ethernet, and this is the serial interface, and these are IP address of these interfaces. So right now for this router, this is the router ID for this router. Why? Because this is the maximum IP of these physical interfaces, because there is no logical interface is created here. Now I will do what? I will create the logical interface, and then you will see the router ID will change. So what I will do, I will go to config mode and will give the command interface. Interface command is to configure the interfaces, whatever interface we have Ethernet interface, we have fast Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet, and also we have loopback interface. Now this loopback interfaces is actually your virtual interfaces. Virtual interfaces, that means it is not a physical interface, it is just a loopback interface where any data sent to this interface will loop back to your router itself. So I will create the loopback interface, and I can give any number. I have this number of interface I can create from 0 to this, so I can give any number here. I will give 0 here, and now you see we are under the interface mode, and the interface is directly up because it is not a physical interface, so it is directly up and it is connected. Now I can configure any IP addresses just like we configure normal IP addresses. So I will configure here 9.0.0.1 and 255.0.0.0 is the subnet mask. We don't have to give no shutdown here because it is already, because the interface, you see interface is already up because it is virtual. So if you give no shutdown or don't give no shutdown does not matter because it is already enabled. Now when I check show IP interface brief, so I can see this loopback interface also. Now this is not a physical interface, so it is not going to affect any of this routing, any network here, because it is just a loopback interface. It is not sending or receiving anything, but it is actually affecting the process of selecting the router ID. And because it is the router ID it is affecting the router ID, it can affect the selection of DR and BDR. Now to check the DR and BDR and the router IDs, we will see the verifying, how we can verify this the configurations of OSPF. We will see that what are the commands we have to check the and verify the configurations of the OSPF. So just as the DR, we have the backup designated router also, and this backup designated router BDR is a router that becomes the designated router if the current designated router has a problem or fails. So it only comes when the DR fails. Original DR fails, then this BDR comes again, because it is already selected, so we don't have to do the selection process again. So it will make it fast and it will choose the BDR as a DR quickly. So the BDR is the OSPF router with the second highest priority at the time of that selection. So at the time of the selection, this one is a first priority, and then this one will be the second priority. So this will be considered as a BDR, and we don't have to do the selection again. So a given router can have some interfaces that are designated router, and other that are backup designated BDR, and others that are non-designated. So if no router is a DR and BDR or giving subnet, in a giving subnet the BDR is first elected, and then a second election is held for the DR. So based on the network type, OSPF router can elect one router to be a designated router and one router to be a designated backup designated router. DR and BDR serve as the same as the central point for exchanging OSPF routing information. So what these DR and BDR do, they send the routing information to each other. It is the responsible to it is a central point for exchanging the OSPF routing information, and each non-DR or non-VDR routers will exchange routing information only with DR and VDR. Instead of exchanging updates with every routers on the network segments, DR will then distribute topology information to every other router inside the same area. This greatly reduces the OSPF traffic, and to send the routing information to a DR or VDR, the multicast addresses of this 224.0.0.6 is used, and DR sends routing updates to the multicast addresses of 224.0.0.5. So VDR, the send routing information, that means the non-DR router sends the information to DR VDR on this multicast IP, and the DR and VDR, they send the information to other routers on this IP. If DR fails, then VDR takes over its role if redistributing routing information. So this is what DR and VDR. Now, if any virtual interface is there, that virtual interface will become the router ID, and this is what we can do it for the effecting the election or selection of DR and VDR. Now suppose if you don't want to create the virtual interface, then you can do what? You can configure it directly from the configuration of your router OSPF. You can configure the router ID directly from OSPF for the OSPF. So how you can do that? You can go to the router configurations, OSPF configurations, and then you can run the command router ID, and you can configure the router ID for your router manually, and this will effect the selection of the DR and VDR. So for example, here in this Pune router, we did what? We created the virtual interface for selecting the router ID. Instead of that, what we can do? We can create the router ID directly from the configuration of OSPF. I will go to this router and I will choose the router ID here. So I will go to the configuration like router OSPF, and the process ID you have to give, right? Now we are under the configuration of OSPF. Now I can configure router ID, and I can configure whatever the router ID I want, and in the IP address format. Router IDs are always IP address format. So let's say I want to give 8.0.0.1. Now when I run this, it says reload or use the clear IP OSPF process command for this to take effect. This router ID is not going to be effect unless we reboot the router, or we don't just want to reboot the router, then we can just clear the OSPF process. So it will recalculate everything and recalculate the router ID, and then based on that it will recalculate the DR and VDR. So clearing the process or reloading the router, two options we have. If you don't want to reload the router, then you can just clear the process of OSPF, and you can do that by running this command clear IP OSPF process. It says you want it yes or not, so I say yes, and now it is rebooted, and you can see it has done the election again, the adjacencies again, and it will choose the router IDs of these routers. It is actually restarting the process. Now one more thing, when we configure OSPF, then OSPF asks for the wildcard bit, or we can say wildcard mask. It asks for the wildcard mask or wildcard bit. Now what is this wildcard mask or wildcard bit? It is a mask, it is a wildcard, this wildcard mask is a mask of bits that indicates which parts of an IP address are available for examination. At a simplistic level of wildcard mask can be thought of as an inverted subnet mask. Now it is what? It is actually, we can say it is inverted subnet mask. It is inverted subnet mask. That means if your subnet mask is normally this, so we can convert it into binary. So we can see that all these bits are on here, all these bits are on here, all these bits are on here, and these bits are off. So when you invert this, invert means what? These on bits will become 0 and 0 bits will become on. Very simple. So this will become the wildcard mask, the wildcard mask for wildcard bit for this subnet mask. This will be 000.255. That means these all bits will become 0, these all bits will become 0, these all bits will become 0, and this all bits will become on. So you will get 255. So this is what your wildcard mask in simple. In simple, that means it is class C. So this is the class C subnet mask. Very simple, just enable the bits and disable the bits. The enable the disable bits and disable the enable bits, and it will become the wildcard mask. So a wildcard mask is a matching rule. The rule for the wildcard mask is 1 means that the equivalent bit is must match, and 0 means it must match, and 1 means that the equivalent bits does not matter. Now this is what the mask do. What actually this wildcard mask do or wildcard bit do? We saw that how it is like it is just an invert of the invert of the real mask. Invert of the real mask, that means on bits are get disabled, disable bit gets on. This is the simple. Now if suppose you have done the subnetting, this is also important. If suppose you have done the subnetting, so your subnetted mask will also be changed like this. Like if you have done the subnetting here, you have 255. Your subnet mask is 255.255 dot 255, and here you have subnetted, and your subnet mask is 192. This is your subnet mask and this is your subnetted mask. That means you have done the subnetting. Now how you will take this subnet mask wildcard? So again, these all bits are on here, so it will become 0. Then all bits here on, this is on here, so it will become 0. These all bits are on here, so again this will become 0. Now here we don't have all bits off, so it will not become 255. It will not become 255 because all bits are not off. We have some bits on here. So 192 comes because these two bits are on, 1 and 2. This 128 and 64, when we combine this we get 192. This is what the subnetted mask. Now when we convert this into wildcard, so this ones will become 0 here, this will become 0 here, this will become 0 here, 0 dot, 0 dot, 0 dot. But here when we convert this, so these two bits are on, so these two bits will be got off, and these bits are on, so these bits will be will get enable, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what will be the subnet mask for the wildcard mask for this subnet? So it will be we have to calculate this 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 plus 32. So what we get here, we will get 63. So this is the subnet mask. This is the subnet mask which is actually subnetted, not the default one. So this will be the wildcard mask for this subnetted mask. So this is the wildcard mask for this subnetted mask. Or we can do what? We can easily calculate it by using this formula, like whatever the value you have, whatever the subnet mask you have, either it is a normal subnet mask or it is a subnetted subnet mask, whatever you have. If you want to get the wildcard bit or wildcard mask for that subnet mask, you can do what? You can simply use this formula, is like whatever your subnet mask, you subtract it from this default value. Default value, that means this default subnet mask, or we can say where all bits are on. So whatever your subnet mask is, you just remove it from this 255.255.255. For example, my subnet mask is 255. It is class A, but I have did the subnetting here. So 255 dot 224.0.0. So I have done the subnetting, and this is my subnet mask. Now I want to get the wildcard mask for this subnet mask, So what I will do, I will just remove it from this default value 255.255. So what I will get? I will get 255, it becomes 0. Then on this 255, when I remove 224, so what I will get here, 1 and 3, 31. Then when you remove 255 from 0, so it will remain 255 dot, and when you remove 255 from 0, when you remove 0 from 255, again it will become 255, remain 255. So this is the subnet mask, and this is the wildcard mask for that subnet mask. In simple, it is invert. So this is what we can say easy way to take the subnet mask, calculate the wildcard mask by using the subnet mask. Now, what is this wildcard and what it do actually? So what is the use of this wildcard and why we use this wildcard? Now remember, when we configure the RIP protocol, RIP was easy to configure and there was no wildcard options. But when we configure the OSPF, it is compulsory to give the wildcard. Without a wildcard, you cannot configure. It is not complete. The command is not complete. So you have to give the wildcard, and that is why the command is getting very big here. In OSPF, when you configure the OSPF, when you introduce the networks, you have to give the network address, then you have to give the wildcard for that network, then you have to go for the area also, and then you have to mention the area number. So why this OSPF is increasing it? So it is actually increasing it. It is an advanced feature. It is advanced feature which is not available in RIP. And this one is very useful in some scenarios where we use the wildcard. It is very, very useful in scenarios. Let's say, for example, we have a scenario here where we have a routing here. This is our router here, and there is another router here in our local area network, and we have LAN network here, also LAN network here. These are also connected to this router, and on this router we have also one interface connected to internet. Now what IP addresses I have configured here? So I did network 10. I have configured 10.1 here. I have configured 20.1 here. That means 20.0.0.1 here. On this side of serial interface, I have configured 20.0.0.2 here. Now on the serial interface, on the fast Ethernet interface, on the interface which is connected to this side on the internet, I have did the subnetting here, and I created, I subnetted the network. I did what? I did created two subnets of 192. So 192.1 I gave here one subnet, and 192.2 this subnet I have given on this interface. Now when we configure the RIP, so what commands we give? We give command here in this router 1. On router 1, what we give? We give the command that I have network 10.0.0.0. Now remember, when you mention the network, what that means? The means is that the network is to be routing, like this network will add it into the routing table, and all the interface, remember this is important, all the interface of this network enable the routing protocol on that interface. Now in this router 1, what we have only one interface of network 10, and that is this interface. So routing will be enabled on this interface, and this network will be added into the routing table, and this interface routing will be enabled. That means the information about the routing will be start sending on this interface. Remember, the information will be exchanged on this interface. Then when we give this command, the second command on router 1, that will give this, we give that we have connected to network 20 also. So we will mention that network command and we give network 20. Now when we mention network 20 here on router 1, so what that means that this router network 20, add the network 20 into the routing table and start the routing protocol on the interface of this network. So there is only one interface here of this network, so it will start the routing on this interface and it will start sending the information on this interface. And start sending the information on this interface, that is why the information goes on to other router 2. And remember, on RIP configuration we just mention the network, we don't mention anything RIP or anything, we don't mention that things, only network. Now what happens here, it added these two networks into routing table and it starts sending the information on these interfaces. Now router 1 it's okay. Now when I go to router 2 and configure this, so on router 2 what I will do, I will configure it like I will say that we are connected to network 20, so I will say network 20 here, I will give the command network and then I will mention network 20.0.0.0. Now when I mention this, so it will do what, it will add that network into the routing table and start the routing information sending and receiving on that interface. That means this interface. Now it is okay, the interface send the routing information to router 1 and it will receive the information from router 1. It's okay. Now when I configure this interface, so what I will say that I have a network of 192, it is class C, so I will say 192.0.0.0. But we have created two subnets here. One subnet I will write it on full here, that this is 192.0.0 dot, and here I have made one subnet of 1, and then here I have made other subnet of 0.0.2, or we can say 122, whatever, we have made two subnets here, but the network is same. So in this case what happens, the RIP does not support classless, so it will always go by the network. In RIP we don't have to mention anything, we just have to mention the network. If you mention the IP address, it will take again this as a interface, it will take it as a network. Now what is happening here in router 2, it will add these two networks, network 20 and this network 192, into the routing table and start sending the information on the interfaces of this. So when we added 192, so it will do what, it will start sending the information on that interface of that network. Now what interfaces of that network we have, one interface is this, it will start sending and receiving the information here. It's okay, it is our LAN network, but it also starts sending the information on this interface, and this interface is connected to internet, and through the internet it is sending the information to anyone, and if any hacker or any cracker sitting on that internet, he can receive the information, so he can see the whole topology, whole network of your. in your organization, what networks you are using. It can see anything, and it can also send the fake information from there, and this router will accept it because it is exchanging the information from this interface, and it is enabled because we mentioned the network address here. Now in RIP we don't have any option, we have to give this command, otherwise it will not work. Otherwise we have to choose the other IP on this interface of connected to internet. So that is why we have this wildcard mask or wildcard bit in OSPF. It will allow us to decide that on which interface we want to enable the routing or not. So in this scenario, if I want to enable only on this interface, I don't want to enable on this interface, so what I will do, I will use the wildcard mask here. Now in the wildcard mask, the simple rule for the wildcard mask is this, that 0, when we have the bit 0, that means the equivalent bit must be matched. That means to enable the routing protocol on that interface, the bit must be matched, and 1 means that the equivalent bit does not match. That means if suppose we have two networks, so suppose we have created two networks of this, or these are two IP addresses. Now we have suppose network 20 here, network 20.1.0.0, and we have another subnet of 20.2.0.0. Now when I'm giving this network to the routing protocol, when I'm mentioning this network, so I want to enable only the routing for this interface, this network. I don't want to enable it for this interface or this network. Then what I will do, I will use the wildcard mask. I will give this network as a this 120, the command network, and then I will give 20.1.0.0. That means when I am mentioning the network on the OSPF configuration, when I give the command network here, so with the network command I will give this network which I want to enable for the routing. So I will give this network, and with that I will give the wildcard mask. Now wildcard mask I will give it like this. I want to have this 20 here. Remember 20, that means I want exact 20 here to enable the routing. So I will say here 0. Now this 0 means what? All the bits are 0. That means it will match. It means what? The equivalent bit must be matched. That means I am saying in the first part of this must be 20, match 20. If it is not 20, then don't do this. Then I want to have 1 here, exactly 1, not 2. So what I will say? I will say 0 again. Now that means what? I am saying here that match all the bits must be exactly same. So if I said 1 here, then exactly 1 needed to enable the routing. If it is 2, then it will not enable. Then here we have zeros. So what I can do? I can just give 255 here. That means I can enable all the bits here, 255.255.255, so that it will not check these two bits, these two parts. I just only want to check these two parts. I want to check these two parts because I want to have exactly 20.1 in these two parts, and I don't want 20.2. So if your router is having both these networks, so only this network will be enabled, the routing, and this network will not be enabled for routing. And in this scenario we have two IP addresses here, 192.192.0.0.2 here and 192.0.0.1 here. So in this scenario what I will do, I want to enable it only for this IP. So what I will do, I will mention this IP here. Instead of network, I will just mention the IP here, and for the wildcard I will do what? I will give 0 dot. That means first part must be 192, then 0 dot, that means the second part must be 0, cannot be anything else. Then third part I will give 0 dot, that means this must be 0. Then fourth part I will give 0 again, that means the fourth part must be 1. And that means what? It will enable the routing for exactly this interface, not on this interface. And you see, it is not an invert of the subnet mask. It is what I am giving, what I want. So basically the wildcard mask do what? We use this because it is the default. Because we are just using the default, we just want to inform, we want to enable it for the whole network. But when you want to control it, then you can use the wildcard to control that where you want to enable the protocol and where you don't want to enable the protocol. So very simple, when you have 0, when you give the 0 in wildcard mask, then it says that match the part, match the bits exactly must be what we are mentioning. And when we say 255, that means do not match. That means when we give this subnet mask and we use this wildcard, that means what we are seeing here, it is class C. So class C, that means if suppose I mention this network of class C, 192.168.1.0. So this is the network part. And if you don't have any subnetting, I don't want to mention it for the specific interface or network, then I will go by the default wildcard, that is what? 0.0.0.255. That is what? The inverse of the default subnet mask. And that means what? It is actually saying what? Always match these first 3 parts. 0 means match the first 3 parts. That means this is the network part. Match the network part exactly. It should be, it must be 192.168.1. It cannot be anything else. And this 255 is saying that anything here can be, it can work. So it will enable the routing on all the interfaces of 192.168.1.1 or 1.0. But if you want to do it for the specific interface or specific IP or specific network, then you can control the wildcard bit here. You can control it by using the wildcard bit. So I want to enable it only for the specific interface, so I will give the IP address and I will say this is the wildcard bit 0.0.0. That means match everything. Match everything, and match everything, that means exact IP. And if exact IP is there, then only enable the routing protocol for that. So it will not enable the routing protocol for this interface, it will enable the routing protocol for only this interface, and start sending and receiving the packets on this interface. And it also add the network into routing table. So this is what the wildcard bit do. If you don't have that condition, then what we can do? We can just enable it with the default subnet mask. So if you want exact IP address, then what you can do? You can use this wildcard 0.0.0, and it will do what? It will match exactly this IP address. So this is what the wildcard bit is. It is an advanced feature. It was not available in the RIP version, RIP any version, but here it is available. We can do this. We can use it to configure. We can use it to configure and enable the routing on a specific interface. Now after configuring and everything, now we should see how we can verify the OSPF configurations. So for verifying and troubleshooting the OSPF configurations, we have these commands. First, we have show IP route command, which shows the protocol routing table. Then we can see the show IP protocols command. This command will show us about the information about the routing protocol. Routing protocol, that means whatever the protocol we configure, it will show. And if we configure the OSPF, then it will show the information about OSPF. For example, so this is where we have configured the OSPF. So when you go to any router here, and you can check uh, you can check show IP route command to see the routing table, and it shows that these two networks are connected, and these networks are coming from or knows by the OSPF port. And you can see the AD value is 110 by default, and this is the calculated cost for that network, and it is based on the length, based on the bandwidth of the interface where it is connected. So based on the bandwidth of that interface, it is showing you this cost here. It is 128, 65, 129 and so on. Then if you want to see the other information like show IP protocols, so it will show you the information about the protocols. Now whatever the protocol you configure RIP, you configure IGRP, you configure OSPF, it will show you that what protocol we have configured and the information about the protocol. So when we run this command, it says that the routing protocol is OSPF and the process ID is 10. Incoming outgoing filters are not set. This is the router ID, and you can see the router ID here. It is the router ID for this router Andheri, and the router ID is what? This interface IP, that is 20.0.0.1, and this is the router ID, and we have not changed the router ID of this interface of this router. So it is saying the router ID is 20. Then what it is saying, the number of areas in this router, how many numbers of areas we have. So is 1. There is only one area we have, this, and that is the normal area. It is not a stub area, and it is there is no not so stubby area. There is no stubby area is there. There is no stub area. We have only one area, that is the normal area. Then it is doing the routing for this. Now you see, it is not only showing the network address, it is also showing that the wildcard bit, because the wildcard bit decides that which network we are doing here. And also it is showing that this network is under the area 0. This network 20 is also under the area 0. Remember, if your router is connected to two different areas, then still they will do the routing. They will still do the routing. They don't do anything else. Still they will do the routing because of this. Because the area does not require any additional configuration. But areas we do configure for doing the route summarization. Now it is showing here the gateway source information, that where it is going to get the other network, and this is the router ID of those networks. This is what 801, and this is the router ID which we changed for that other router. Then it is showing the other gateways here, and the default AD value is this. Now we have other commands also. So this show IP protocol shows the status of the OSPF, process ID and neighboring gateways, and it also shows that area types configured, that is normal stub or not so stubby area. And lastly, it lists protocols that are being redistributed and networks that are being advertised. And you can use this command to troubleshoot neighbor relationship, missing routes and problems with summarization and filtering also. Then show IP route OSPF. Not only the show IP route command, when we run the show IP route command, it shows the routing table. When we run the show IP route OSPF command, it displays the OSPF routes that are being received from neighbors and their advertising the administrative distance. It also shows the cumulative cost matrix to reach the particular subnet and what the root source and interface is. And you can use this command to troubleshoot general issues, missing routes and problem with summarization and filtering. Now when we run the show IP route command, it actually shows about all the routing routes. Like if you have a static route configure, if you have configured the RIP, then it will show every routes in this show IP route command. And when you run show IP route OSPF, then it will show you only OSPF related routing, OSPF related routes. So when we go router and when we run show IP route command, it shows all the routes coming from every routing protocol. But when you want to see only OSPF routes, so we will run show IP route OSPF command, and it shows only the route of OSPF. You can see it is also not showing the connected routes. It is only showing the routes of OSPF. The next command is show IP OSPF. Show IP OSPF. With the show IP OSPF, we can run interface, neighbors, database. With the neighbors interface command, it shows what the information about the interfaces which is running the OSPF, and also shows the type of network, neighbor counts, type of authentication, and timer values. And you can use this command to troubleshoot the neighbor relationship. If suppose it is not creating the neighbor relationship, then we can run this command to check the interface status and local configuration issues and routing problems. Then we have the OSPF neighbors command, which displays the activity fully adjacent neighbors. It shows the neighbors information, neighbors router IDs, and neighbor states of DR state. That means what is who is DR and who is non-DR. IP addresses, interfaces, and dead time of neighbors. And you can use this command to troubleshoot the neighbor relationship and local configuration issues. Then also you have option to run the show IP OSPF database command, and this displays the link state advertisement types per area, advertising routes, advertising router, link ID, that is subnet and age. And you can use this command to troubleshoot missing routes and filtering problems and general issues. Then show IP OSPF border routers. Now border routers displays, this command will displays the router ID and advertising router, which is area ABR or this area border router, or also ASBR router. ASBR router, that means the router which is connecting to other autonomous system router. Like areas will remain in the same autonomous, but when you have a different autonomous and your router is connecting to different autonomous number, then that router is called as a ASBR. And cost detail also, and you can use this command to troubleshoot the missing routes and filtering problems and general issues. And when you run only show OSPF, show IP OSPF, then displays the process ID, configuration area, number of types of areas. It also shows the number of time the SPF algorithm is executed. If you see a very high number of SPF calculation, it could be a flapping router or an interface with an issue. Like if it is showing the lots of calculation done, that means it is calculating a lot of time, that means the network is coming and going. It is a flapping network or interface. You can use this command to troubleshoot missing routes, filtering problem, and general issues. So we can run these commands to check the information about the OSPF. And that is like when I go to this router and I say show IP OSPF, so it shows me all of these informations. It shows that the process is OSPF 10 and this router ID. Remember, we changed the router ID of this router by using this command. By using the command router ID, by using this command, we change the router ID of this router. So the router ID it is showing for this router is 8.0.0.1. Supports only single TOS route, support queues, open queues, LSA. It is showing the information about the SPF schedules. Delay 5 per second, hold down timer, SPF 10 seconds, maximum LSA interval 5 seconds, minimum LSA arrival is 1 second. This is the sending and receiving information of the link state. And it shows the area. It is a backbone area because it is area 0 we are using, and it is showing the information about that area. Then if I give a question mark here, then we can do what? We can see the border routers, we can see the database, interface, neighbors, and also if we have the virtual links, then we can see that also. So if suppose I run the command interface, then it shows me the information about all the interface, like fast Ethernet 0/0, the line protocol is up, it is configured with this IP, and this interface is under area 0. The process ID is 10, the router ID for this router is this, and the network type is broadcast. The cost for this link is 1 because it is connected, directly connected. Transmit delay is 1 second, state is DR, and priority is 1. Designated router ID. Now you see it is become, this router is what? The router. This router is DR. We can say that this router is what? The DR router, because It is having the least, it is having the minimum router ID, and we have changed the router ID manually, and that is why this is the DR router. And this is the interval for hello, 10 second, dead after 40 seconds, wait till 40 second, retransmit after every 5 second, and next is due to 7 second. And the other information it shows here. Then it shows information about the serial interface with the IP address area. Again it is saying the router ID is this, and this one is point-to-point connection. The cost for the link is this, because the serial interface directly connected to the other serial interface. Then there is another serial interface. This is also under area 0. This is the router ID, this is the topology type, point-to-point, this is the cost, and these are the other informations. Then we can check for the database. So it shows router OSPF database. It shows again the router ID is this, process ID is this, and this is the network link ID. This is the link ID. This is the physical links, and one of them is the logical link also. So this is the advertisement router, and this is what the age of this information check, and this is the count of this link. Then we can check the neighbors information. We can check the show IP OSPF neighbors, and we can see who is the neighbors. So this is the first neighbor on this side, and this is the other neighbor on this side, which is connected full state, and these are the priority of these neighbors. This is the time this information comes. This is the address for that neighbors to connect, and this is the interface that need to connect that neighbors. So these neighbors are connected with this interface, and this is the IP address of those neighbors, and this is the router ID. Remember, router ID is different and IP address is different. Here in this case it is same, but it is not always same, because router ID is a different criteria. It is like we can say it is like a name of that router, and this address is the address which is used to connect that router. Then we can check the border router also, if we have any border router. Right now we don't have any border routers, because we don't have any multiple areas. We have only single area, and that is area 0. So right now there is no area, there is no border router it is showing here. If it shows the border router, then it shows the I or capital I for the intra area route, and capital I for the inter area route. That means this is I for the internal within the routing domain, and capital I for the external, that means outside of the routing domain. That is we can say this is the BR, the border router, ABR, area border router, and this is ASBR, that means autonomous system border router. But right now we don't have any router here, because it is not we don't have any different areas. We have only single area here. Then for doing the troubleshooting, what we can do, we can enable the debugging. We can enable the debugging, and then we can see the messages. So what by default, when the adjacency happens, so the neighborship is created, or whatever the message is sent and received, we don't see those messages. Why we don't see? Because it happens in background. This debug command will do what? It will bring back those messages in the terminal, and you can see those messages coming and going. So it will help you to see that where is the problem. If suppose it is not creating neighborship with the neighbor, then what is the problem? We can see after enabling the debugging. So we can enable the debugging command by using the debug IP OSPF command, and we can enable the debugging for adjacency. And this command, use this command to troubleshoot the neighbor relationship, routing update issues, and stub router problem. So we can do that. Then we can enable the OSPF events debugging. This will use to debug. You can use this command to troubleshoot routing update issues and convergence issues and interface flapping. If the interface is flapping, so you can see that the messages will come. Then also we can debug the Windows hello, this OSPF hello protocol. and this command is used to troubleshoot the neighbor relationship, configuring issues, and DR/VDR election problem. So if we enable it, like I will enable here. So if we want to see the debugging, so we will run the debug command, debug IP OSPF, and we can debug all these things. We can debug the adjacencies, we can debug the events. The hello option is not available here because, as I said, this packet tracer will not allow you to do multiple commands. It will not show you every options here. It will only show you the options related till SCCNA level. So it is not having the hello option here, but in real router when you run, you will see the all options available. Now if I enable the adjacency, so it is now show you the messages when the router do the adjacency. Now they are already have done the adjacency, they have already done the adjacency, and the router IDs are already fixed. Now it is not doing any adjacency. Now I will do what? I will reload the OSPF process on this Pune router. Show IP interface brief. Now in this Pune router, remember we created this loopback interface, but still the router ID for this router is still this one. I will see show IP protocols. So what is the router ID? It is showing still this router ID, but because the process is not reloaded. So when I reload the process, then it will recalculate, and this virtual link, virtual interface IP will become the router ID. And when we reload the process, it will actually reload everything, and it will do the adjacency again, and it will show the messages there on the other router. So I will do what? I will do clear IP OSPF process, and I say yes, I want to reset. Now it will do what? It is resetting the process and resetting everything, the neighbor relationship also. Now at the same time, when I go to the router where we enable the debugging, we can see the multiple messages coming and going now. We enabled it here, and we can see the messages are coming. Received DVD from this router, from here, and then the negotiation is done here. Then from here again it is getting this, it is sending the information to this, and exchange is done. Receiving, sending, receiving, sending the LSB information area. So it shows the adjacency here, and you can debug the events also. So if I enable the events, then whatever the messages are coming and going, it will show. Like it is send the hello, receive, and this is end here processing. Then again it is sending and receiving from the other side. So you can see the events happening in the background. You can see in that console directly. So you can see and troubleshoot also that what is happening in the background. So if anything is not coming, or suppose the hello is not coming from the router, so we can see here it is not coming. So we can decide that what is the problem. Now to disable this, what we have to do, we have to put no. Now again we have to run those commands first, console synchronization, otherwise you see the commands are lost in here. I wanted to type no IP debug OSPF events. I want to stop these event messages, so I will say no, and it is wrong. No IP OSPF. Now you see my command is not showing. Where is my command? It is not showing. OSPF. Okay, it is a wrong command. It says invalid command. It is very hard to type the command when these messages are coming. No IP debug. Okay. No debug IP OSPF and events. Now it is off. So it will be difficult for you to disable this debugging, and that is why we have one option. We go to line console 0 on the console configuration, and we enable this logging synchronous. This will do what? It will keep our command intact when we are typing. I will enable this again. I enable the events again, and now again I'm getting these messages again, and I want to type. I want to disable it, so I will say no debug, and you can see our command will always be on the new line. Debug IP events IP OSPF. So messages are coming, but still my command is intact. So I want to disable the events. Then I want to disable the adjacency also. So this is to configure, and this is what to configure in single area, how the OSPF works in single area routing, what is the wildcard bit, and we saw what is the wildcard bit, why we use wildcard bit. We saw that how we can verify the routing process of these OSPF, and also we can debug, and these what are the debugging commands we have. Then we have one more option, and then finally if we want to remove the OSPF, then how we can remove the OSPF from the router? It is very simple. Like RIP, we can remove a single network, or we can do what? We can remove the whole OSPF process. So for removing the OSPF or for removing a single network, what we will do here, first let me show you IP protocols. So it is doing the routing for these two networks 10 and 20, and I want to remove one from it. So I can do what? I will go to router OSPF, and the same process I will give command network. I will say no network because I want to remove it. No network, I want to remove 10, so I will say no network 10. Then wildcard bit for that network, area 0. Now it is removed that network. When I run this do show protocols, so now you can see it is not doing the routing for this network. And again one more thing, maximum path, like RIP also, this OSPF support maximum 4 equal paths. So if it calculates the cost of the multiple paths, and if similar path cost comes, so it can take those 4 maximum up to 4 paths, and it will do just like RIP, it will do the load balancing also. So this is also here in this OSPF just like RIP. Now okay, we remove the one network, but if we want to remove the whole routing process here, then we can just run no router OSPF process ID 10. Then it will remove the whole routing protocol. When we run the show IP protocol command, it says no routing protocol is there. Show IP protocols, there is no protocol. If I say show IP route, so it says there is only connected network, and if I say show IP route OSPF, there is no network, because we removed the OSPF protocol. So it is easy to remove these dynamic protocols. Just we have to say no router protocol, no router, and then protocol number, protocol name, and the process ID, and it will remove the whole routing protocol. So we saw in this single area network, we saw that how the OSPF works, like what it creates, the routing table, topology table, database table. We saw that what are the network topologies of OSPF we have, and we saw that what is DR, BDR, how they are going to be elected, and how we can manually change the selection process, and also we saw that how we can do the verifying, and what is the wildcard bits, and also we have seen that how we can verify the configuration and do the troubleshooting.